And good evening, everyone. I am live. Welcome into my Pacers live post-game show. I do one of these after every single Pacers game, and make sure you tune into my coverage at fieldhousefiles.com. Well, this one's headed to a Game 7 after a dominant Pacers performance, 108-91. They get the win. It didn't even take 111 points, which has kind of been the magic number for this Pacers team this postseason. And now they force a Game 7, a game that so many of these players grew up watching, look forward to, with everything on the line. And, we just wrapped up post-game interviews talking with Carlisle, Siakam, Toppin, and Haliburton. And so many different ways in which you can start with this game. Absolutely. But the first one you got to go to is turnovers, right? Because they kept that to a minimum after games with 25 and 21. They finished this one with 10 fewer than Oklahoma City. They had just 11 in total, and by halftime, when they were up big already, they had just 2 giveaways. That was significant, number one. I think number 2 was their level of defensive force. They tweaked things up, as I hinted at Fieldhouse Files earlier today, adjusting the defense to both help the defense, but also give their players more energy and such for the offensive end. And I thought that helped Andrew Nembhard deliver his best performance of the series, quite frankly. 17 points, 4 assists in this one for him in a game where you thought you might have to use him significantly more than usual. He played 31 minutes, but you didn't know what Tyrese Haliburton's status was going into this game. It was a situation where Tyrese joked how he was doing round-the-clock treatment to get to this point, because if it was up to him and it was feeling okay, he was going to make it out there. So there was so many different things that he did, maximizing sleep, doing the hyperbaric chamber, getting house calls from the team's athletic trainers, physical therapists to get treatment on it. He even said he did hyperbaric chamber today on game day, something he ordinarily would not do. And then on top of that, H-wave and a number of different things that helped him put himself in this position where he could play today. And then out on the court by about 4:30 before the team's typical walkthrough, and he felt good enough. And after all that treatment and such, he felt good enough to get shots up, to move up and down the court. My big question was, what would he look like running up and down the court and when facing an elite level defender? It's different even if somebody is on him, but nobody was on him in practice. And when he got those shots up pregame, much different when you got someone like Lou Dort on you. But I thought he looked good. Obviously not 100% by any means, but I don't think he held them back. I don't think he was not effective out there. And that was, I thought, a relative concern. And I think the cool thing that he mentioned several times here tonight was he told Rick Carlisle, let me get it. Let me try to play out there. And if I'm not good enough, then don't play me. But he wanted to give it a chance, and nobody can blame him. He's the face of the franchise. He's got them to this point. And for what he was able to do, you got to commend him, one, putting his body through all of that, and secondly, taking the risk that obviously comes when playing a little bit hurt. He obviously got testing, imaging done a couple of days ago on that right calf strain, and clearly not too significant, not a grade 2 or worse by any means, or else no chance he could have played or even felt comfortable to do that. But again, the Pacers get the win, 108-91. Wow, it's loud in here as they begin to do significant cleanup and move on to the next game here. But again, turnovers, defense, Haliburton, and the other big thing was the bench. 20 points from Obi Toppin. I think TJ McConnell his contributions went well beyond the box score, especially there with that burst essentially in that second quarter. At one point, he led the team in rebounds and nearly finished with a team high, although Pascal Siakam passed him there. It would have been a double-double for TJ, as he was 1 rebound shy of a double-double, him finishing with 12 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals in just 24 minutes, which is his sweet spot once again, 24 minutes, and he was able to get it done. And also, I should mention the point where Haliburton was only needed to play less than 23 minutes. Remember that Tony Bradley, Isaiah Hartenstein moment at midcourt where it was it was a technical foul on Tony Bradley for shoving Hartenstein, even though his jersey was tugged and nothing was called. Well, after that point, I thought it was a notable timeout by Rick Carlisle. It was an emotional point. They were up, I want to say, 15 or so. So it was comfortable, but not quite game over by any means. He also took Haliburton out of the game at that point. I think 5:25 left in the third quarter. And from that point on, he wasn't needed the rest of the way. So now, look, you got 72 hours to get prepared for Game 7 coming up Sunday. It'll be 8 p.m. Eastern on ABC once again, and that'll be the final game of the season. All right, before I get rolling with a lot more, let's go to your questions, comments here. Appreciate everyone joining me here well after midnight here in Indianapolis. Mr. Compton, hopefully they can replicate on Sunday. I'm scared of OKC at home. Yeah, there's a lot to that, but both teams have just been dominant on their home court. Neither team has lost back-to-back games, and so that will be put to the test for OKC. The Pacers obviously just coming off back-to-back losses and kept it from being 3 straight in the series. If it was 3 straight, we're done after this one, right? Instead, we're going back to OKC. But I thought their defense was so impressive. I throw out that fourth quarter, especially where they got a lot of points late in the game. They kept them to 25 points and below in each of the first 3 quarters, 25, 17, and 18, to the point where I thought it was tremendously notable. And going into that fourth quarter, the Thunder only had 60 points. Mark Daigneault said, hey, this one's over, down by 30. So he elected to start 5 reserves to that fourth quarter to elect to get rest for his guys. Sunday's going to be an incredible atmosphere. It's one of the loudest buildings and environments that I have seen, being in all the arenas across the NBA. So they're fantastic with their crowd. And one thing I do like, no matter who wins Game 7 on Sunday, the franchise will win its first NBA championship. So that's different. I think it's the 7th straight year where a different franchise has won an NBA title. So you're getting parity. You're seeing 2 teams go to the finish line here at Game 7 that do it with depth, that have done it through the draft and quality trades to get them to this point. They've also had a lot of stability within the franchises, within the front office, as well as within the coaching staff. And obviously I've mentioned this before, but I'll reiterate it. Ever since Rick Carlisle was hired in 2021, he's been the transformative piece that has then led to Haliburton, that has then led to Pascal Siakam, and led to the culture that has allowed the Pacers to reach the NBA Finals for the first time in 25 years. I have a lot more to say, but I'll hang off and try to get to more comments here. And Nembhard's offense needs to carry over more in Game 7. Absolutely, for sure. That was the thing that was so notable to me. Again, I hinted at it at fieldhousefiles.com. If you got my newsletter with insight from practice and videos and interviews there, I mentioned there how they plan to adjust what they did defensively to empower what they could do offensively. So what they were able to do ultimately was empower both, because they were able to keep the Thunder to 91 points. Again, keeping them to below 25 points in each of the first 3 quarters was remarkably significant. They sped up the Thunder, provided disruption with 21 turnovers, leading to 19 points for the Pacers. And Nembhard, and by him not picking up full court and applying that pressure so deep, I think he had a little bit more energy. He was a little bit more set defensively. During the regular season, you like that. You like playing that full court pressure when you can. You got different bodies you can go through, but you try to tighten the rotation, give your minutes to those top players. And so not knowing what Haliburton's status was, not knowing how many minutes he could go for, that was the right call for Nembhard. So great job by the coaching staff for adjusting, making that small tweak, which I thought led to big results. Again, I asked Rick about it post-game. For obvious strategic reasons, he really seemingly did not want to get into it and instead defaulted to crediting the crowd and the environment, which absolutely was fantastic. But it was a great chess move, I thought, by the Pacers coaching staff to get that done. MK Sinks, what did they do different on Dort and Caruso? Dort was meaningless 3, but otherwise scoreless from both. I thought the intensity level and the force in which the Pacers played at, and also the level of focus was the best that we have seen all series long. Now, with them, anything beyond that, like strategic, there was nothing that jumped off the page to me. Maybe that's something that will show up when I watch this game back. But I thought more than anything with those secondary players, it was their connectedness. The fact that also the Thunder, by the way, we should note, struggle to make shots, and that's going to happen. The Pacers really have not done a good job of knocking down shots from outside themselves in this series. We saw Oklahoma City start, I think, 1 of 16 from three-point land. They did end up making 8, going 8 of 30, but still the Pacers won that battle, quite frankly, and winning by 21 points from the three-point line. Indy Hawk Pops, appreciate you jumping on here, my friend. Good to see you. Yeah, all you can hope for is it's a chance for the Pacers, and here they are. This is exactly what you asked for. You're as healthy as you hope to be, and to be this late into the season and not have many significant injuries. You do have Isaiah Jackson, your backup center. You do have Jarris Walker, who's a fringe rotational player. But Haliburton, what he was able to do, and now he's got significant time to rehab, recover, that's encouraging, absolutely. Basil, what's up? Thanks for jumping on here with me. Eddie, hello. Please stop using that slogan. Not my favorite. I will say it was really cool when fans were chanting Surzin 7. They chanted Obi Toppin's name. They chanted TJ McConnell's name. I thought they were really engaged throughout, especially in that first half where it felt like nobody was sitting through the first quarter and a half. Then the Pacers went on that gigantic run, had that big lead at halftime after outscoring the Thunder 36-17 in that second quarter. That really turned the tide, gave them that big lead at halftime. And they had one bad quarter, I think, finishing. I think it was the first quarter where the Thunder, I want to say, finished the quarter over the final 3 minutes in an 8-2 run. Well, then after that, I thought the Pacers improved and did a much better job of finishing and closing quarters to their liking, especially there in the third quarter where I believe they finished at 30-9. Then they scored the first 9 points to open the following quarter. I think it was ultimately a 39-9 run, if I remember correctly. No, 36-9. And they just kept the hammer down. They only had a couple let-ups in the game. They didn't allow for that rough start in the first few minutes to bog them down. When they fell behind 10-2, then they erupted and went on their own run, build up that double-digit lead. There's so many different things you can highlight and like from this standpoint. When did the Pacers fly to OKC? I have not checked just yet, but I assume it'll be later today on Friday. I want to get there a couple days in advance, and you need to, because Saturday will be like a media day, a practice/media day, consisting of interviews. It's not the true media day like they have before game one of the series. So many of these questions have already been asked and answered. But given the scope of the media, you probably have 800 different media members from a lot of Chinese media. I even tweeted out a photo and posted in my story about Rick Carlisle knows some Chinese. Back when he was coaching Dallas, I heard he learned it and could write his name in Chinese. So that's what that was about, by the way, that I posted it. But long-winded answer of saying it, I believe they head out Friday afternoon, give them a day to adjust, and then head into practice and media obligations, which is much more than the regular season and even the playoffs until the finals there on Saturday. Luis, was today a breakthrough on working against OKC's defense from the TV? It looked like Dort and Caruso didn't play Haliburton aggressively or pick up full court. Yeah, both teams made some adjustments there. Dort was still all up in Haliburton and trying to make things difficult for certain and trying to face guard him, which was, again, notable given some of Tyrese's limitations with this right calf strain. I don't know if that was a breakthrough necessarily. I don't. I think there are small tweaks that these two terrific head coaches are going to continue to make throughout. Matt, appreciate the birthday shout out. Yes, here I am on my birthday working. No surprise, because it's been quite a run, and it's been a fun run. But it's also, by the look of my eyes, I'm sure you can see, and the lack of a haircut, like this has been an exhausting run. There's no time for personal stuff whatsoever. But we'll continue to ride the rave, head to OK City myself, coming up Friday afternoon to gear up for a big weekend for the franchise. I saw ownership walking through the tunnels, headed back to their area. They were fired up, high-fiving people along the way. This is a big deal to so many. Even on my ride coming here, I took a Uber ride to the Fieldhouse. Even the driver there was talking about, man, Indy sports has had a drought, that they need a championship badly. And obviously for the Pacers, have not had one since the ABA days, when there's an ABA banner for their 3 ABA titles. And the notable thing there, by the way, I want to mention is that all 3 of those ABA championships were won on the road. So while the Pacers went up early, 2-1 in this series, it looked like maybe there was a chance if they won, they could do it at home. They're going to have to do it on the road, where all time this franchise has had more success on the road in the postseason with all these big moments. Lindy, appreciate that. Kimono, welcome. Appreciate it. Good to see you on here. Yeah, the guys will get a lot of rest. Look, at this point in the season, you're not resting much. You're getting a lot of shots up. You're working with recovery, massage therapy, all those sorts of things. Scott, if Pacers win a game 7, who would be the MVP for the Pacers? TJ, Siakam, someone else? Man, that's tough. My first instinct there is Siakam. It's not going to be TJ. It's not going to be Obi Toppin. Role players are not going to get that. If anything, I would default to Tyrese Haliburton, especially if he's able to contribute at the levels he did today, which is obviously lesser than the regular season, the postseason. But for him to gut it out, for him to lead them to this point, for him to have several big shots and such, you wonder if media would default to Haliburton. To me, though, Siakam has been the best pacer, most consistent pacer in this series. I mean, even tonight, it was a quiet 16 points. Also led the team with 13 rebounds. And remember, it was 2 games ago, I think he led the team in turnovers with 6. Just 1 here today as he really sets the tone for the way in which this Pacers team plays and really gave them enough firepower to contend for a championship. They were on the verge of getting there, right? With Tyrese Haliburton in the supporting cast there, the goal was to get back to the playoffs, to experience the playoffs. And it's remarkable because that was like 14 months ago when they were just talking about wanting to experience some postseason success. Now, though, much different. Now they're on the verge of a title, and I think they had the right attitude. A lot of some of the national media in particular were asking big picture questions. What will a championship mean to this city and all that? That's a tough one for the players to answer. That's a tough one to contextualize and try to get your mind to when you know you are so far from it. I think the biggest thing for these players will be to simplify what Sunday is about and just try to focus on winning each quarter, then winning the game. And by doing that, you could win a championship. If you start thinking big picture and planning a parade and thinking about how you want to celebrate and the people you want to fly in and those sort of things, that's where you get ahead of yourself. Both of these teams are young teams. But the Thunder, by the way, that was something I was watching closely because while they have young leaders like Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams, a guy they've really been leaning on is Alex Caruso in particular for his experience. And I get that because not many of these guys have been there and been on these big game platforms and experiences. And maybe they were overlooking this. I don't think that was necessarily the case. I give the Pacers a lot of credit for their response, their intensity, and the tweaks that they made had big results. I mean, how about the Pacers getting to the free throw line 10 times in that first quarter? And I think the Thunder had 2 attempts maybe by that point. Let's see. Kimono, appreciate it. Can't believe Miles Turner struggling in offense after 6 games. You're right. That's been the one thing that's been a little bit baffling to this point. Even today, I think he missed his first. What did he finish with? Miles finished 1 of 9 from the field. So he missed his first 8. He made 1 and then checked out of the game with those 3 points, 4 rebounds. He's been a guy that's been neutralized and from a production standpoint has not had the level of impact that you would be expecting from a guy like that. Has been so good, so loyal, so productive, and been in the league 10 years. He's not afraid of the moment. I agree. Nembhard looking to score was a huge change. It was a necessary one. He's a guy that has the big cojones, has the big production and loves the big moments. And, he loves that three-pointer from the left arc. He knocked down at least one of those. I think it was maybe it was a couple of those. But he ultimately finished, 5 of 7, 3 of 5 from the field, 17 points as the Pacers get it done. They'll need him to replicate that. Appreciate the shout-out, Kimono. Tonight was the Pacers' best performance all series long, special defensive intensity pressure. Totally agree, Rodney. That's kind of what I'm going to work on with my at the buzzer column. It's tough when I'm at games to get those at the buzzer columns out immediately. But to me, it was number 1, keeping turnovers down, and number 2, that defensive intensity pressure and how they frustrated and disrupted OKC and made them look the most uncomfortable that they have in this series. And then the other thing, obviously, again, what Haliburton was able to do on probably a calf strain that's 70%. Yeah, Ben Matherin's birthday as well here today. He turned 23. I expected better game from him. He did not have a good one tonight. 1 of 6 from the field, 2 points, 4 rebounds. That could mean maybe he has a big game 7 coming up. Maybe he's the standout performer off the bench in game 7. We know what TJ McConnell will give you. He's good for at least 12 points seemingly at this rate. Obi Toppin's been good for that as well. Good bursts off the bench. And then maybe there is a wild card along the way. When did I book my OKC ticket? Did I have to wait till Indy won game 7? No, I booked my game 7 flight. I think it was after game 4, maybe game 3. Either way, you want to get ahead of it. And I will say the one good thing that happened during the pandemic was the fact that you can have free cancellations with flights and not lose any of that money, get it back and eat credits and such. But there are just not many good flights that go between these two cities, certainly none that are nonstop as well. So booked that probably a week ago, it feels like, although I've lost track of what day and what time it is at this point. Ajax, whoever made the game plan should be fired. What the hell were you thinking? Why keep their... Oh, you're talking Fever. I got you. I was like, what are you talking about? I think it's quite the opposite with the Pacers game plan. I don't really have an explanation, Luis, about Miles Turner's series. Certainly he's going against two bigs with Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein that have made things difficult to an extent. He was dealing with illness. I think he still is, but it's been almost a week to 10 days that we have known about it. So I wonder if that's gone on a little bit longer. I know there's been some staff members that have been sick within the Pacers as well. Maybe that's what led to it, but I don't have a direct reasoning for why Miles has been not nearly as effective as we are used to seeing from him. And maybe that'll change in Game 7. You know, there's going to be a wild card of something that has been different to this point. Music fan, Reggie was coaching and being the biggest fan. I don't know if he was coaching, but he was definitely being a fan, high-fiving, clapping, cheering them on, giving them that level of encouragement. It was so cool to see him at this NBA Finals at every single game. And there must, again, been about a dozen former Pacer players here, everyone from Steven Jackson to Darren Collison to, I don't know, Lance Stevenson, Ron Artest, Austin Crozier, Travis Best, Dale Davis, Derek McKee. That's one of the best things that I think we've seen, and a great job by Karen Atkinson throughout this. She runs player relations for the Pacers and has done a tough job, but a great job of getting people here, because we go to OKC and they don't have anybody really that they recognize. I think there's been a couple of influencers that most of us don't know, and then obviously Adam Silver, who's at these games. So no surprise there. Do I think Reggie will be in OKC on Sunday? Probably not, but I wouldn't put it past him. I'm sure he has an open invitation on the Simon family jet. I would guess that. It's a good question, though. Yeah, turnovers, if they can keep it low on Game 7, they'll have a much better opportunity. They cannot have one of those games where they're turning it over 18 or 25 times. That's been what's plagued them in their losses, along with, not getting that bench production. Paint points was a big concern early on in this game. That's interesting. I just now noticed this. 40 points in this one in the paint for the Thunder. I think they scored 16 of their first 24 to start the game. So that was in that first quarter. And since then has not been the same. Yeah, it just felt good tonight. Lindy agreed. Rhythm was better. CG, appreciate that. Reporting's top tier. Tuning in from British Columbia, Canada. That's fascinating. Wow. So you're probably a big fan of Matherin, of Andrew Nimhard, and others, which I totally understand. Let's see what else. Miles' defense great tonight. He had some blocks for sure. Absolutely had a couple blocks, grabbed 4 rebounds, and made some impacts certainly. But what I'm saying is we expect much more from him. He produces at a much better clip, where he's probably good for 12 points and 6 rebounds per game. So that's what I was mentioning with him. Still probably not 100%. He can do better, and I think he will do better coming up on Sunday. Drive to Midway, fly out or there. That drive is way better than the lave over. Totally disagree. That would be at least a 3-hour drive to Chicago. I have not had, other than if there are delays, my layover is not 3 hours. So definitely won't be doing that, but I appreciate the thought and the consideration there for sure. Just Jules, it was a great game. Low turnovers. Hopefully that will continue. Yep, touched on that. How's Neesmith's ankle? By all accounts, I think good. He hadn't mentioned it. Haven't seen him limp. Haven't seen him favor it. None of that. So I'm sure it's something he's getting treatment on every single day, but it's nothing that's hindering him from playing or keeping him from producing out there. He knocked down a couple of threes, reached double figures. Once again, this is a game where the Pacers had 6 in double figures. That's the recipe to success. So no surprise there whatsoever. MK Sinks, was the trophy in the building if they had won? Yeah, it had to be. I didn't see it. I didn't have visuals on it by any means, but it had to be in there, because if they win it, you got to give it to someone. I'm sure they had champagne and beers and stuff. What I don't know is if it was on ice. They might have said, let's wait till the second half, see how this goes, to decide if we need to do that. Because if it is, I don't know what happens to it after it gets skunked or whatever. And, it's no good if the team ahead isn't able to win this one. Wonder why Jamal Tinsley made no appearances. He did leave on bad terms. Yeah, he did. Also, it takes a lot. And maybe he's on vacation. Maybe he's coaching kids. I don't know. You can't assume anything with all these guys. They have their own schedule. I would love to see Jermaine O'Neal sitting courtside for these games, but he's an agent now. He's got a couple of kids and a lot going on within their schedules. I mean, Darren Collison telling me he's flying from Los Angeles for these games. So that's asking a lot. And not all these guys have that flexibility. Maybe some of them don't have that interest. No, Lance Stevenson was interested. He obviously has his home here in one of the suburbs and obviously made an opportunity to make it back here and attend and support. And he was one of the guys that they ISO cammed on him. Didn't just show a group. They put it on him to fire up the crowd. And what a great group it was tonight. Again, so many fans on their feet. This is the last home game, the last Pacers home game of the season at the Fieldhouse until until October. So they went out on a high note. All right, a couple more here before I wrap up, almost 1 a.m. Eastern time. I have not seen Jonathan Bender, no. How do you feel about the Pacers executing on driving in, kicking out, and finding the corner threes? That's something that's OKC's made difficult. They have really good interior defense. And that was the story I think we were writing about after Game 3 and Game 4 is how can they get in the paint? How can they touch paint, not just to get shots up there, but then to spray out and send it into the corners and set their other teammates up for success. And I think they've done a better job of that here in the last couple of days. I don't have the numbers to necessarily back that up immediately, but I think that's one area the Pacers have done better at. Yeah, a bunch of OKC T-shirts getting shipped to OKC. Yep, you're right. T-shirts, hats, and now you got to make sure the Pacer ones are printed as well. And those will go to OKC, probably on the NBA charter jet that they take between each game and such. That would make sense. J-Dub with NBA Finals record -40. Yeah, that is right. That was right. This is his quietest game. Really didn't get in any kind of rhythm, didn't have an impact coming off his 40-point performance the other night. Maybe just chalk it up to growing pains or his inexperience, but that was a player that did not contribute nearly as much as you would expect it. 0 for 4 from distance, only 3 rebounds. This is where, though, he's second, maybe the third best player on that OKC team. So you certainly expect for him to respond and have a big game coming up Sunday. What do you think was emphasized to limit turnovers? At times this series, the Pacers looked like they forgot how to play basketball. I think that was a credit to OKC oftentimes when they got sped up, which is interesting given the fact that how the Pacers want to play. They want to play fast, obviously, but they got sped up like one gear too much. And that was something that I don't think they ever felt here in tonight's game. Even when they started poorly and fell behind 10-2, it was just missed shots and things that were out of rhythm. I don't think it was anything necessarily that OKC did from that standpoint. I thought OKC's defense was slightly different. Neither team applied that full court pressure, not nearly as much in what they were doing. Travel safe and enjoy. Appreciate that. Thanks for tuning in. Antonio Davis making appearances. Yeah, I think Antonio's been here. I don't think he was here tonight, but I'm pretty sure he was here for maybe Game 3. They all run together at this point. Let's see. As I want to wrap up here, again, Pacers win 108-91, advancing to a Game 7 coming up on Sunday. I appreciate everyone for joining me here on this live post-game show. If you missed it, you can watch it back. I encourage you to do so at 2 times speed, or you can listen to it on the podcast. I appreciate everyone jumping on and staying with me to nearly 1 a.m. And I'll have a lot more coverage for you tonight, tomorrow, and in the days to come at fieldhousefiles.com. Thanks for joining me, and I'll talk to you all again soon. Have a great night, everyone.